everybody. Good evening. Welcome to Maggie Anderson College. I'm glad to see you all here. My name is Chinyere Emmanuel Ewe. I'm a professor of finance and economics at Maggie Anderson College here. I've been here for 29 years. I'm currently the chairperson of the Department of Economics and Finance. In my 29 years, I've served in various capacities. I'm just being a professor, deputy chairperson, dean of the School of Business for 5 years. Also worked in the community. I'm glad to welcome you here today on behalf of the current dean of the School of Business, Dr. Joanne Grove. She asked me to come in and bring greetings. All I can say at this point is that this is a very important topic. I remember in my years as dean, I worked in the community, and I did emphasize the idea of like wealth. Well, what is wealth? Wealth is accumulated resources that sustains a community and also lays the foundation for future generations. This is what wealth is. Black wealth matters because this is the only way we, as people of African origin, can compete effectively, lay the foundations for the future, and also make it a little bit easier for our children and our grandchildren. So I would hope that today's panelists are going to provide you information to understand the meaning of wealth. This is why other communities are thriving. We should learn to save. We should learn to invest. That is very, very, very important. I just want to bring a personal note. I came to this country many years ago, like 40 years ago, as a student. And my mother wasn't here, my father wasn't here. I struggled, went to school, and rented an apartment. And then, after many years of struggle, put together money and bought a house. My wife and I left one of our houses, bought another one, and handed one to our son. Now, he does not have to save up the down payment for a house. Now, this is what has happened in other communities. When he saves money, he could now take equity in that house. 20 years from now, he is not yet 30 years. 20 years from now, he will not be 50. He could now take equity in that house, which we have doubled or tripled his equity and start a business. Or start a business that his own children will grow on. And what I did in 1997, 2002 was to emphasize what I called intergenerational wealth transfer. It's a very good foundation for a community to thrive. We cannot forever lament the effects of slavery, the effects of discrimination. It was Jesse Jackson who said many, many years ago, you may not be responsible for being in Ghana, but you're going to have to be responsible for bringing yourself up. That is nature. I have a young daughter, and I said to my young daughter, nature is brutal. Nature does not dislike you. Nature does not hate you. The lion does not hate the lamb, but the lion does not eat. Storms don't hate you, but storms blow. If you know how to survive a storm, you will survive and live another day to strive. If you don't know how to survive a storm will sweep you. It's not because the storm hates you. The storm is part of nature. And so, please, I wish you the best. And once more, welcome to the U.S. College. Thank you.
Before we begin tonight, here are a few words from our co-sponsor, Mr. D, from New York Life.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rudel Desirus from New York Life Insurance Company. and it is my pleasure to be part of this programming. And this idea actually began with the idea about family. And here we are talking about finances, family. Why is that so important? When we look at the structure of the family in America, particularly in the Black community, it is single mom or single dad or grandma or grandpa raising the children. So we begin to think about, well, how do you talk about legacy without talking about the family? So we realize that to talk about the family, we must talk about finance, because a lot of our issues are dealing with our financial situations. So I found myself at New York Life Insurance Company, and they have a $50 billion challenge for the African American community. That is that over the next 6, 7 years, that they want to build this pot of wealth that's going to be disseminated or distributed in the community. The question is, well, how much of a difference would that make in your community? And the question is then, how do you build this legacy that can be transferred from one generation to the next? And ladies and gentlemen, I give you my simple answer. We have to begin by paying ourselves first. And the way that we do it at New York Life is that we say, you're going to work for the next 20, 30, 50 years, some of you look very young, right? And we take the cumulative of the sum of your income that you're going to work for the next 20, 30, 50 years, and say, you know what, right now, currently today, that's your net worth, that's your value. It's $1 million, it's $2 million. If you don't come home tomorrow, will your family miss that income that you've been bringing home for the next 20, 30 years? And you don't need to answer me, right? I can see it in your eyes, and I already know the answer. To most of us, the answer is yes. And we say that if we talk about building legacy, we must protect ourselves first. And that is the first thing we should do. And at New York Life, we strongly believe that. And I want to say that I see too many families who falls apart, or their wealth falls apart, because when they passed away, they didn't have the right will, they didn't have the right estate plan, and God knows that they didn't have the right life insurance plan. So I'm here tonight to be part of this discussion as we talk about the next phase, which is about entrepreneurship, because we know that building wealth is not just about life insurance. It's not just about the stock market. It's not just about me and my boys getting together and we pull this money together and we throw a party or something. Different ways about doing that. Last time we were here, we talked a lot about community involvement or community wealth. We talked a lot about susu, right? So tonight we're going to hear a lot about entrepreneurship, and some of these ideas will come back again. But what I want to invite you to do is two things for me. This discussion, like I said, is just the beginning. I really want you to think about how do we take this discussion to the next step. That is, how do we bring you to a round table outside of this environment, and we can talk about strategy. How do we bring this to the community? How do we begin by the first step we need to do among ourselves, which is to unify ourselves and do business within ourselves. And tonight, of course, we're going to hear that from some of our panelists, right? The challenges of doing business in the community, the challenges of transferring that business from one generation to the next. So all these things are part of the discussion. So I'm inviting you to really join us in this discussion, because the month of March, April, we're going to continue this throughout the month of May and June. Hopefully it will be a different setting. But we want to hear back from you. So if you didn't leave your name and your email and your phone numbers up front, please do so. And at the end, please do see me at the front, because I would love to speak to you based on your private plan, your will, your state plan, because I do believe that that's the foundation that we need to really put place. And so lastly, what I would like to say is that tonight, our esteemed Dr. Esmeralda is not here with us. And I want you to keep her in your prayers for us, because she's going through a procedure, okay? And we want to make sure that she is safe, and we want to make sure that we keep her in our prayers. So with that, again, I want to thank you all for being here, and I look forward to meeting you all later on, and we can continue the discussion. Thank you.
Once again, thank you for your patience. My name is Alan Lloyd again, Project Coordinator for Center for Law and Social Justice. moderator tonight, Attorney Loree Dane Favors. Loree Dane Favors is the General Counsel of the Center for Law and Social Justice. She is also an activist, an attorney with a long-standing commitment to racial and social justice. Before graduating from New York University School of Law as a Ruth Tilden Kern Public Interest Scholar, Ms. Dane Favors co-founded Sankofa Community Empowerment, a nonprofit organization designed to empower racially disenfranchised communities. She also co-founded Breaking the Cycle Consulting Services, which specializes in creating comprehensive professional development for educators, youth education programs, and family workshops designed to address the crisis in urban education through the use of culturally responsive teaching. Ms. Dane Favors began her legal career as an attorney in the New York office of Perskewell Rose and at Minute Phelps and Phillips. She also served as a law clerk in the chambers of the Honorable Sterling Johnson Jr. in the U.S. District Court for Eastern District of New York. She later founded Dane Favors Law, a law firm that focused on economic and racial justice. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring up our moderator, Attorney Loree Dane Favors.
It's been a long week, and the snow has been horrible, and I already explained to y'all at the last session, I'm a church girl, so I'm going to need that audience response. So good evening, everybody. How are you doing? Good. Okay, thank you. I feel good. I appreciate that. Thank you all, one, for braving the weather. We were literally crossing fingers, toes, and everything else yesterday when we heard about the snowstorm, and then it stopped, and then we heard something else might be happening this evening, so we're just glad right now that we are here, that we are safe, and that you have been able to join us. As was mentioned earlier, we bring greetings from the Center for Law and Social Justice, which is a 30-year-old racial justice law center here at Medgar Evers College. And on behalf of our Executive Director, Professor Esmeralda Simmons, I welcome you all this evening. As was mentioned, Ms. Simmons is currently not in her best state of health, and so we are really asking you all to send your positive energy and light and healing towards her so that she can continue doing the wonderful, awesome work that we have known her to do. So tonight we are going to take off part 2 of the Black Wealth Matters series, Building Our Financial Legacy. And again, we do extend great thanks to Mr. Deseus from New York Life for really helping to generate this idea and bringing this conversation to our attention. And I thank some of you who were here in the audience at the last event. And some of what we're going to talk about tonight is really going to draw on some of the things that we discussed last week. Or last month rather. In the last session, we really honed in on the personal finances within the Black community. We sort of laid a foundation for understanding how the history of race and racism in this society have really shaped a lot of our economic outcomes. And today, we're going to shift the conversation a bit from looking at us as individuals and really looking at what happens when we pool that individual access to spending power and share that in an entrepreneurial or economic system basis. So this is a part of our CLSJ 30. We are celebrating our 30th year of existence here at Center for Law and Social Justice. As I mentioned, we are a racial justice legal center. We focus on a few key areas, primarily racial violence and ending racial violence in policing, educational equity, voting rights and voter protection, and cultural rights. And this is one of the programs within our cultural rights session. And this is a part of a 4-part series. If you can see the flyer there, it's on our Facebook page as well. Again, tonight we're looking at Black entrepreneurship. In March, we're going to be tackling Black land ownership, which is going to not just include home ownership, land ownership. And in April, we'll be looking at cooperative economics writ large, drawing a lot from the Kwanzaa principle that speaks directly to that. So we do hope that you can join us for those events as well. Now, we're going to go ahead and start framing the issue before we bring up our panelists, because they have a lot of important information to share with us, and I know we are here to hear them and not me. So, we can remember that Black buying power is expected to reach $1.2 trillion this year and $1.4 trillion by the year 2020. That would make Black America the 15th largest economy in the world in terms of gross domestic product, or the size of Mexico as it comes to spending. Right? I want us to think about that. This is just Black Americans within the context of the 50 United States. And we're talking about an economy, spending capacity, which is different than power, spending capacity that puts us on par with the country of Mexico. Some facts here for us to just key in on. Black-owned businesses only get 2% of the consumer dollars that we spend. So that large amount of money that we spend, less than 2% of that comes back to our community. If, however, Black consumers spend 10% more of our income in Black-owned businesses, that would generate 1 million jobs for African Americans. After the government, and this is very important, especially in this day and age, after the government, Black businesses are the largest employer of African Americans. So we have to be clear that for many of us whose livelihood is tied to government, tied to positions in government, what's happening right now in our economy and our politics matters a lot for our economic sustainability, right? And how that impacts our businesses is going to be seen, but it would appear that we definitely have a lot of work to do because the signs at this 3-week park are not good. As it pertains to Black banks, there are approximately 21 Black-owned banks with assets totaling approximately $4.7 billion, which represents less than half of 1% of that 1+ trillion buying power. So I want us to think, all of us who go to religious institutions on Sunday, who pay tithes, who pay offering, if your religious institutions are taking that money and depositing it in a bank that is not Black-owned, that in and of itself is one easy option and opportunity for us to begin having conversations about ways that we can redirect our wealth. Intergenerational wealth, as was mentioned by the esteemed professor, is that monster wealth that started 3, 4, 5, or more generations ago and has been multiplying ever since. The kind of wealth that could, if market conditions were correct, start a retail chain, buy swaths of real estate in the hottest market, and develop commercial residential complex or 3. And as the professor mentioned, what he and his family were able to do just a few decades ago has now put his children on a path so that they're going to start so much farther ahead, especially compared to those of us who are still looking for affordable housing in New York City today, right? This is particularly important. If current economic trends continue, the average Black household will need 228 years to accumulate as much wealth as their white counterparts hold today. This number stands regardless of educational attainment. Now I want us to imagine what was happening about 220 or so years ago that would have locked up the capacity for Black people to gain, generate, and transfer wealth intergenerationally, such that we are now still in the effects of it today, right? Because when we think about what was happening 200+ years ago, and when we think about what's happening in our politics today, we recognize that we definitely have a lot of work to do. There are 1.9 million Black-owned businesses, but of the 1.9, 1.8 million have no employees, which means the person who started that business, wonderful though it is the only person that business has employed, right? So we have to increase that number, and we have to do it with more young people going to work for small businesses in order for there to be production. And that is from Ron Busby, President and CEO of U.S. Black Chambers. Finally, Maggie Anderson, who we're going to hear a few words from in just a second. She authored Our Black Year, One Family's Quest to Buy Black in America's Racially Divided Economy, stated that 1 million jobs, again, that number, could be created if Black households with incomes of $75,000 or more increase spending with Black-owned businesses from 3 pennies of the dollar to 10 pennies of the dollar, which is far better than any governmental policy, plan, or job creation program could hope to achieve, right? We're going to hear a few words from Ms. Anderson, and then we're going to bring up our panelists for the rest of the discussion. Playing earlier, I just turned it down.
Philanthropy is commendable, but it must not cause the philanthropist to overlook the circumstances of economic injustice which make philanthropy necessary. Dr. Martin Luther King said that. Now, what is this economic injustice he was talking about? What are these circumstances he was talking about? In America, in the Asian community, the dollar circulates among the community's banks and retailers and professionals for about 28 days before it leaves the community. In Jewish communities, that circulation period is about 19 days. In WASP communities, predominantly white areas, if you will, the dollar stays 17 days. My Hispanic brothers and sisters keep their dollar for about a week. And in the Black community, the community Dr. King was slain fighting for, we keep our dollar for 6 hours. Let me tell you what that means in real life terms. That means in Asian communities, Asian kids get to see business owners who look like them every day, all the time. There are Asian banks and insurance companies and grocery stores all over the community, and those businesses employ from the community, and the families take care of those businesses and vice versa. Asian unemployment in America is at a low 4 to 5%. Most Asian Americans, over 50%, are self-employed or employed by Asian firms. that those circumstances, that economic and business growth, lead to high educational attainment, there's business and political power, low poverty, strong businesses, low crime in Asian neighborhoods. 6 hours in the black community. Let me tell you what that means. That means that black kids can't see business owners who look like them every day. There are no black-owned grocery stores and dry cleaners and pharmacies and clothing stores locally owned in the black community. So the people there cannot get jobs, much less create jobs in the community. So black unemployment in places like Detroit, Gary, and Oakland, sometimes 40%. And those circumstances lead to social problems like recidivism, high crime, high gang and drug activity, poverty. That's what's going on with those 6 hours. And those disparities cause the same kind of problems in the corporate space. 60% of the money that is spent with Asian suppliers in corporate America, so your Asian professional firms, Asian products you see on the shelves, used to be spent with black-owned businesses. And the same kind of shift has happened between Hispanic businesses and black-owned businesses. That's why when you go into a grocery store, you'll see whole aisles full of products coming from Asian companies, from Hispanic companies. So let's go to the grocery store, the drugstore, and see where the black-oriented products are. You go there, you'll see products like these. You'll see Spoken Wave, and Less Jam, and Smooth and Shine, and Dark and Lovely, and Strength of Nature, and Dark and Natural, and Stay Soft Fro. All those products that only black people buy every day. 100% black market. All those products are owned by L'Oreal, a company out of France. All those billions of dollars leave the black community. Some of that money could come back if L'Oreal had supplier diversity, if L'Oreal was doing any business with black-owned firms. L'Oreal only has black buyers, no black suppliers. Same deal with Hennessy. Hennessy, Wall Street Journal estimates between 60 to 80% of Hennessy's U.S. market comes from the black community. That means that Hennessy closes down tomorrow without black consumers. Billions and billions of dollars going outside of the community. Hennessy has no black distributors, no black suppliers, does not advertise in black-owned media, or use black-owned advertising agencies. So, bottom line. Most of the businesses in black areas are not black-owned. Most of the products catering to black culture don't come from black companies. Black unemployment is highest among any group in America. Black firms are the highest employer of black people. So, I can give you more. Chicago, 60 KFC franchises, most of them full of black people and black money every day. None of them owned by black franchisees. I'm just trying to give you this picture of the circumstances of economic injustice Dr. King referred to. In the early 1900s, shortly after emancipation, believe it or not, black businesses, the black community, had amassed great business power. We had black Wall Streets, we had hospital systems, transportation systems, hotel chains, grocery stores, all kinds of businesses and professionals thrived. Hundreds of millions of dollars were created and circulated in the black community. Unemployment was statistically insignificant. The unemployment gap between whites and blacks in this country only widened in 1960 at immigration. After slavery, more and more black towns became self-sustaining until integration or until they were burned down by racists. Vibrant neighborhoods were bombed, set on fire, then looted. These people had their homes and thriving economic thoroughfares burned to the ground because they endeavored to be self-sustaining. Over 90% of the lynchings of black men that happened during Jim Crow and Reconstruction were of business owners. What an awful paradox. We had, when we were politically disenfranchised, we had economic power. We took that economic power for granted because we needed to fight for our civil rights. Now we're politically free, but economically insignificant. That's a tough trade-off to make. Martin Luther King thought about that trade-off. Martin Luther King wasn't just fighting for basic human rights. He fought for black businesses too. In a public address that he gave the day before he died, he said this: "We got to strengthen black institutions. I want you to take your money out of the banks downtown and put your money into Tri-State Bank. We need to have a bank in. You have 6 or 7 insurance companies in Memphis. Put your insurance there. We need to have an insurance in. Dr. King died asking us to support these businesses, and we didn't, and they're gone. Those banks and insurance companies were the backbone of the Black community, and they're gone now.
Okay. She's heavy. The sister is good. I encourage you to get her book, Our Black Year. Maggie Anderson is her name. And with that, we're going to now turn this discussion over to the experts who are in the room. And as I call their name, if they could please come up to the stage. We have Celeste Morris, who is the president of Morris Allsop Public Affairs. You can certainly give an applause. Ms. Morris founded Morris Allsop Public Affairs as a result of the natural outgrowth of her extensive leadership experience in government, political, business, and nonprofit sectors, and her acumen in strategy planning and implementation, coupled with the relationships she's created over time, truly do make her an important partner to clients whose goals require that they navigate government and business enterprise. So we thank you, Ms. Morris, for joining us. Next up, we have Karen Tappan, CEO and Chair of Karen's Body Beautiful. Ms. Tappan is an entrepreneur and educator and one of the billion-dollar beauty industry's rising stars. And in just 7 short years, as the founder and proprietor of Karen's Body Beautiful, she has transformed her natural hair and skin line from a modest home-based business to a blossoming enterprise with robust internet and mass marketing, sales, and distribution. And we are excited to have her here because she has experienced literally every angle of business ownership. So we're excited to have her. Thank you for joining us, Karen. Next up, we have Mr. Tony Lawson. Tony Oluwatoyin Lawson. I hope I did some justice to your name, brother. He is a graduate of the College University School of Business, and he and his co-founder, here in the audience, Chantrell Lewis, are the owners of Shop Black. You may have seen them all over the internet because they are literally all over the internet. And so we are very grateful to have him and his expertise in the room. And then joining our esteemed panelists are Libby Parsons, who is the Senior Program Manager for Capital Access at the Department of Small Business Services. She is going to really help us focus in on the resources that are available for us here in New York City, and she's going to be sharing some of that information with us. And so we're very much looking forward to having her here, especially in light of the mayor's new announcement about new initiatives that he is going to be engaging in to increase minority and women-owned businesses. So we want to give our panel a round of applause. Get our technical stuff together here. Okay, so as we're getting started, the video that we just saw really shared a lot of information about the historical backdrop, about what created the conditions in which we operate today. And so, Tony, I'd like to start with you. If you could speak just a bit to some of the trends that you have seen currently, in light of this history and in light of some of the challenges that Black-owned businesses have faced that are particular to that community. What are some of the things that you've seen in your capacity as one of the co-founders of Shop Black, some of the things that are happening currently with the Black business community?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me.
Of course.
And thank you all for coming. Grateful to be on a panel of esteemed colleagues and professionals such as these. Entrepreneurship is it's a passion of mine. I really see it as a way for us as a people to create wealth, generational wealth that's extremely important. And it's a way for us to break free from the stage of the totem pole, economic totem pole that we're on right now. I would say that we're at the bottom of it at this point in time. And I see entrepreneurship and business ownership as a way to bring us up and to take us where we need to be as a people in terms of economic freedom, political freedom, and whatnot. So that segue aside, the trends that I've seen in terms of businesses are leaning towards more natural products. Definitely beauty and skin products. In terms of eco-friendly products as well, one thing that I've noticed is there are a lot of hair care, natural hair care, and skincare products out there. A lot of these companies and brands are using ingredients that are natural, paraben-free, good for your skin, smell great and all that. Now, how many of them are using the I guess, the organic or chemical-free label. I'm not sure, but I can definitely tell that's a trend. Another trend that I'm seeing is people branching off from videos on YouTube to launching their brands. Like, for instance, I know everyone's familiar with Issa Rae and Awkward Black Girl, right? So there are a lot of people who are starting a YouTube channel, whether it's from talking about hair care products or skin care products or technology or teaching you how to build a website. And then going from that, they'll talk about that, they'll give you some information, and they're like, hey, by the way, check me out on da-da-da-da.com, and you go to their .com, they go to their website, and they're selling you maybe like on another course that they're teaching. Some of these courses have like great information, the rest of them, I'm not so sure, but that's definitely a trend that I'm seeing right now. So definitely the skincare, beauty, and informational, starting on YouTube and branching off to courses.
So Karen, since we're talking about natural products as one of the trends, and you are known as someone who's the queen of natural hair care and body care products, you've literally seen every angle of business life, from brick and mortar to online. You've had employees, you're in major retailers, and so you've seen, and literally started from your kitchen. In the course of the years that you've been operating, from the beginning until now, what were some of the things that were most troublesome for you? What were some of the most challenging things you had to overcome as someone who was really preparing to take this business world by storm?
The most challenging thing, which I think is true for any Black business, is capital, always being undercapitalized. And so, as Larry was mentioning, and I'll just give you a short version of my career as an entrepreneur. So I started my first business when I was 15, started my mother's business. She was a registered nurse. She wanted me to start her home health care agency, did that. Then I was 17, when I went to college, started a care package delivery service, completely mail order. There was no such thing as the internet at that time. So I did that for about 17 to my mid-20s, and then I started Karen's Body Beautiful about 13 years ago. I had gone natural about 16 years ago. There was nothing on the market, no natural body products, hair products, started Karen's Body Beautiful. In my kitchen at home, and I was a school teacher at the time, teaching high school history with my husband. Well, he was a teacher as well, so we started that business together. And so we did that from the savings that we accumulated from the previous business. So we saved about $50,000 from Karen's Delicious Deliveries, my prior business, which I started in college. And then we opened our store. We had the store for 13 years, and then Target called us in 2012. We have a store in a full-service spa, day spa, so we closed the store in the spa and decided to go into Target. So I'm going to share with you something that I haven't really shared with people outside of my inner circle. And so we went into Target. We did that for 4 years in 2012. We closed the store in the spa, opened our factory where we went into manufacturing full-time. So now we changed the type of business that we were doing from retail to manufacturing, apples and oranges, right? And so in doing that, we spent basically all of our capital opening the factory, buying machines and getting a big 6,000 square foot space, so on and so forth. So now all the money's gone into the factory. We decided to go into Target. We were fed delusions of grandeur. I'm a very smart lady. I do my research. I know how to read. I know how to write. And so I spoke to my broker at the time, and so she let me know that the opportunities would be great and grand, and Target would place hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of orders and so on and so forth. And they did. But, there's a huge but. So, I don't want to take up too much time on this. Okay, so I want to give you an example of what happened so you understand why I decided to come out of Target. So we went in 2012, and I'm going to ask you a few questions so you can kind of follow what I'm saying. So say a product sells for $10 on the shelf. And if we keystone products, keystoning basically means you double your prices. So basically if it sells for $10, that means that the retailer, Target, bought it for $5, which means that it cost me about $2.50 to make, right? Okay, so let's just go with those numbers. So the distributor, and I'm going to make Target and distributor the same, just to make everything easy. So the distributor was buying products from me for $5. It cost about $2.50 to make. So I'm making about $2.50 or so on each product. When I had my store, I'm selling products for $10. Cost me $2.50 to make, so I was making $7.50. I was actually making more than that, but that's another story. So, because I was selling my products for more than $10, so that explains that. So now the distributor's buying it for me for $5. It cost me about $2.50 to make. So now I'm making about $2.50. So I was made aware that there were fees, the cost of doing business on Target shelves. And this is true not just for Target. This is true for Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, all of them. They all playing the same game with all of us. So, for example, we were required to put our products on sale quarterly, minimally at least 10%. So if a product is selling for $10, the customer is saving $1. We, the manufacturer, have to pay that $1. So out of that $2.50 that I made, I have to pay that $1. And out of that $2.50, I have to pay my broker and other fees. So I'm not really making $2.50, I'm making $2. So let's bring that down to $2. So I'm making $2. Target's charging me $1 for every person who gets my stuff on sale because I have to pay Target back that $1 that the customer saved. So how much am I making right now? $1. But wait, there's more. So when products are damaged, so if a customer buys something, they use it, they enjoy it, they decide they don't like it, or they want to return it for whatever reason, they send it back, and it's been used, it's not saleable. Or if a customer goes in the store, and I'm sure, I've toured Target, I've been to dozens and dozens, probably 60 Targets around the country, so on and so forth. People like to try products in the aisle, they stick their fingers and stuff, they use stuff. And so, unfortunately, when they use stuff, they don't buy the product that they use, they buy a brand new product, they leave that used product on the shelf. Guess who has to pay for that damaged product? Me. But guess what I have to pay? I'm going to tell you. So remember, Target was selling my products, let's say $10. I was making $2. That's an $8 difference, right? So Target was making, they paid $5 for it. So $5, excuse me. Target was supposed to be making $5 on that product. Because the product is damaged, they're not making that $5 anymore. I'm responsible for paying Target that $5 for every product that is damaged. Wow. That $5 comes out of my that's separate. My $2, last time I checked, 2 minus 5 is -3. And that was killing me. And so I dealt with that for 3. So we would get bills for tens of thousands of dollars a month in damages, and same for sales. So imagine getting a bill for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. And let me back up. So the very first order, and I'm giving you the real, really real stuff that you would never hear because no one says this. Maybe because people are embarrassed, maybe because they don't want to share. I don't know. But I'm telling you just because I feel like it's important that you guys understand what it really is, right?
So I hope everyone's taking notes.
Yeah, and tell everybody that you know this is what it is. Because, and I'm being honest because I know I have had a 25-year career. I'm 41 years old. I started doing this when I was 15, and I've had so many experiences, the entire spectrum of experiences in business, and I've learned so much, gained so much wisdom that I know part of my purpose is to share this with us because nobody tells us this. And actually, sidebar, I had a customer. I also do private labeling, so I make products for other companies and put their label on it, and everybody's happy. So I had a new private label client come to me, telling me that she wanted to get into Target. They contacted her. She was interested. What's it like? And I was like, girl, have a seat. Have a seat. So I shared with her the good, bad, and ugly. So now she's not going to do it. Good for her. Anyway, so I think it's important that you guys know this stuff because. Also, then I decided to come out after 3 years because my revenues were going down. The very first order that Target placed for me was for $150,000. And I was like, wow, I could do this, make $150,000 on one PO from one vendor. Yeah, I could do this. And when I closed my store, I was projected to do $1 million very shortly. And so I didn't need to close my store. I was doing quite well. Target messed that whole plan up in the time frame that I had planned it a couple years ago because of those fees. And so because, like I said, I'm smart, I pay attention, I know my numbers, I have my husband's my business partner, he is awesome and very, very wise. We realized what the trend was looking like and decided to come out. We chose to come out instead of this experience putting us out of business. And I think that's everything I have to say tonight. I don't know what else to tell you guys. I've told you everything there is to know about my organization. I'll stop there.
Part of tonight is about having those real, honest conversations. And there's a lot of us who are excited. We have a dream. We have a vision. We haven't even done half the due diligence that Karen and her partner put in. And we'll open a store. We're signing leases. We're engaging in contracts. And so hopefully tonight, it's not just gonna be scary stories, but there are gonna be some things that we should be thinking about as we're thinking about expanding our business. Now, Miss Celeste, I am very glad you're here. Y'all who do not know, Miss Celeste is business advisor, consultant extraordinaire. I first met her when I was taking an entrepreneurial course years and years and years ago, the WeBo workshops and business opportunities, and I've since come to just respect her for her acumen and her ability to deftly navigate the business world. You've had the opportunity to interact with a lot of business owners, a lot of excited people who were full of hopes and dreams and maybe had a business plan, maybe did not. In your capacity as someone who has some broad view of this area, what are some of the things that you see people most engaging in that are your top three, don't do this please, even though I know most of you are gonna do this?
Don't go into business without a plan.
Write that down, y'all. Write that down.
You know what they say, if you fail to plan, then fail. Thank you, okay? That doesn't mean to take 10 years. I know some people, they've been to WeBo. They've taken 10 years to make their plan. No, that's not what we mean. You need to figure out where you're going, and the other thing not to do is don't go into a business about which you know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
If you are expert in beauty products, you cannot go into a tech company business. Technology is not what you know. It's not where you have relationships. It's not anything. You don't have that experience, so your business is already going to go down the drain. And then the third thing you should do is think that you will well, there's about 10 things I can say. But the reason why I think that we end up with so many businesses that have one person is because we don't think about it we don't think about growing the business. We just think about, we're gonna get into business. And then we just think about it as us, or maybe us and our spouse. You're lucky. So many black women don't have a good spouse. That's not to put the men down, don't get yourself all excited. But really, that's one of our big problems in the black community. Black women actually make the least amount of income of any group in this country. But we're the biggest part of the black population, so we should be able to start the businesses, but we don't have the capital. And then when we do have the capital, we actually spend most of our money on family problems. So when you save enough for that house or that business, and your brother needs bailing out of jail, mama knows you got that money. And she calling you about that money because to her, getting your brother out of jail is more important than, and I'm not saying this as a stereotype, I'm just saying this as real problem, because he might not even have done anything and got arrested. And now you have to spend your money on attorneys and bail and things like that. And so, or you put your house up. We talk about intergenerational wealth, but I don't want to get off topic. Save some money so that you can go into business and think of your money, think of your business as more than just you. Even if you started out as you, but how is this business going to grow? Is this business scalable? Okay, and then make sure you know who you're getting in business with, because a lot of times we got our girls. Let's go to business together. It's so much fun. No, we cannot. We cannot, just because we had, we went out, we had some drinks, we had a good time. Oh, I know you since I was in kindergarten. Okay, you just don't know that person's business sense. And so you must I'm not saying you shouldn't have partners, but in WeBo, what do we say? Don't take a partner unless they are taking that WeBo course also. And then you have ways to discuss what is going to happen in that business. Now, I didn't follow my own advice at one point, and when after I got out the big black book business, I worked for a little while, but that just wasn't going to be good. was good learning. I headed the MTA's Minority and Women Business Program. We'll talk about that later. But I went back into business and I thought I would get a partner. She was an attorney, she was smart, she knew a few people. But one good thing we did on the way to becoming partners is we started working on the partnership agreement. And with that came a lot of questions. And we had to go through this. So the first bad sign.
Okay, before you say what was in it, can you just explain what is a partnership agreement for someone who may not be familiar?
A partnership agreement is a document that you make up that describes what's going to happen in your business as partners. Who's going to be responsible for what? Who's going to be the administrative part? Who's going to do the sales? What are you agreeing to the hours of work? Is one person going to be putting in 10 hours and the other person who has kids, they only going to put in 6 hours? These things you need to know from the very beginning. So when you go to making a partnership agreement, you start discussing these things. So the first thing that happened in the discussion was she fell asleep. I literally fell asleep while we were talking, so this is not a good sign. Okay? And then we had set up certain times to have these meetings, and she would call me maybe an hour before and say, I can't come because I have to wait for furniture delivery. Okay, so now we know how priorities start working. And by the time we finished all of this, it was obvious that we shouldn't go into business. So don't go into business with someone without really having asked the questions. Just like getting married, do you marry somebody and you find out, oh, they don't want to have children? It's a little late after you're married, okay? So you want to really be knowledgeable about who you're going to go in business with. I have many more things I can say, Lori.
But your partnership agreement is like your prenup for your marriage.
Yeah,
right? It's
yes,
like you're working
it's
out,
like
if this works out, it's going to be great.
And
But
it
if
also,
doesn't,
in the partnership agreement, you also will have how you would get out of business together. And also, remember, when you're in a partnership, it's you and that person, but that person might have a family too. Okay, so you're in a little bit of partnership with that, especially if that person is going, you go home, you got a partner, you tell your husband or your wife all about your partner. You know what she did today? And then that person gives you advice. And then you go back and you try to put this in. It's not, and so now you're really in business. There's another partner that you're not even talking to. Okay, so you have to think about those type of things when you're going in business. But I think that we cannot keep thinking about our businesses as just our one person. So it might be partners or it might be investors. That's a whole nother topic there, because get black people to invest in your business, that's just really, it's very hard to get the relatives to believe in you.
And that's picking up on some of the things we touched on in our last session when it came to personal finances and the organic ways that we have of generating income in our communities. A lot of us come from cultures where susus are a norm, where pooling resources can happen in a variety of ways, but we don't often think about that as it pertains to business. And so, Libby, I actually want to turn to you now because you are someone who has a lot of knowledge about access to capital. When we say access to capital, for those here and those in the audience online, we're talking about access to money, investment money in your business. If Karen had an investor group who was able to front her $150,000 so that she could make those first set of buys and those orders, she would have been able to have the capital and the access to resources that she would have needed to help navigate some of those fees, right? So, Libby, if you could speak to just a bit about what the capital environment looks like in New York City right now, how are small businesses getting access? Is there capital? Is there money out there for small businesses to access? And how can people who are interested in that find out more about it?
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me tonight. It's really wonderful. So, is this better? Okay. So, right now I work with the Department of Small Business Services, and which has a ton of different services for small businesses. Just so I can understand who's in the room, how many people here have an operating business?
Let's give that applause.
Okay, so I'm sure many of you could be on this panel too, sharing very good insights about what you've learned. So in terms of, so right now I work with small business services and managing their capital access and financing programs. Before this, I worked for a nonprofit microlender called Axion, which some of you may have heard about for about 5 years, which is an alternative lender giving loans to businesses that can't get financing from banks. So in terms of the, I can talk first about financing, the financing landscape, and then talk a little bit about the resources available to help businesses access financing. In terms of when you're first starting out and you're a business owner, you have an idea, you're getting off the ground. I think the most important thing to do is to bootstrap it as much as you can. You put in your savings, not too much of your savings. You see what you can fundraise from your friends and family, and try to test your concept with as little amount of money as possible to really grow. So for example, say your dream is to open a restaurant. Do a pop-up first, and or try catering and see how that goes. See how if people like it. Test your product, and also get experience doing that type of thing. I actually I'm a business owner myself and have a pop-up taco shop. After doing it for 2 years, I realized that my dream isn't to own a restaurant. so that was a good experience, and testing that. Because when you eventually go to a lender or an investor, they'll want to see what were you able to accomplish with. They want to see that your business is profitable, and if it's not profitable yet, that it will be. And they want to see what money you've been able to put into the business, and been able to fundraise from others. So when I think of a capital ladder, and the first rung on that ladder is putting your own money into it and seeing what you can do, what type of proof of concept, bootstrapping that you can do with that. To test it for yourself, because you're going to have a better business if you do that. And secondly, because it's really important to the lenders and the investors to see what you've done. So that's the first step. And if you don't have that savings or that cash to put into it, that's why things like Kickstarter and Indiegogo, these online crowdfunders exist, so that you can fundraise through different online sources like that. There's also Kiva. How many people here have heard of Kiva? So there's few people. So Kiva's pretty great. It's an online crowdfunder, but with Kickstarter and Indiegogo, you get grant money. It's a gift, and most of the times you might say, "Oh, we'll give you a gift certificate to this, or a thank you card, or a hug, or something." With Kiva, it's a loan, but it's 0%, so it's free money. You have to repay it, but you're not paying interest. How you get underwritten or vetted is that you go online, you create a profile just like Kickstarter, and then you get 15 of your friends to lend to you $25, or people in your community. The idea is if you can get 15 people to believe in your business and to believe in you, then that's good, because as a business owner and as an individual, you'll feel really more committed to repaying 15 of your friends than perhaps other different types of financing sources. So once you get 15 of your friends to lend to you as little as $25, then your profile is open to the public of Kiva's lenders, and there's thousands of lenders on Kiva.
It's 1.6 million actually.
Over 1 million.
Yeah.
Can someone spell the name?
KIIVA. And you can get up to $10,000, and and use it towards your business. And, you know, different people lend you, and then you make online payments after you get to the $10,000. So that's kind of different ways that you can start getting capital when you first get started. But those are just little amounts. So what happens once your business is going, it's profitable, you're past the Kiva stage, you need more than $10,000, well, you can go to your bank, right? No. And why can't you go to a bank? No, your ask might be too small, you might not have enough time in business, you might not have established credit score, so many different, you might not have high enough revenue. So what banks look at are boxes, and if you don't check off those boxes, then you're not gonna get a loan. No matter how long you've been with a bank, no matter how good your business is, or how much potential it has. But that's why alternative lenders exist, like Axion, and there's a ton in the city actually. New York City is a great place for alternative lenders. But they will still have their requirements. They wanna see that you can, most importantly, that you can afford it. So when you go to these lenders, it's very important, even if it's an alternative lender, even if it's a nonprofit lender, which there are many in the city, it's really important to be prepared, to have a plan, like you said, to be able to show, okay, this is exactly how I'm going to spend the money. This is exactly the amount I need, and this is the impact it will have on my business, and I have enough money to pay the monthly payments. That's the most important thing. They want to see that you have cash flow. If you have other sources of income from your household, that's great too. But you have to be able to show that. You can't go, you know, one of the stories that I have from Axion is a business owner came in and said, oh, I need money. How much do you need? Well, how much can you give? How high of loans do you get? 50,000. Okay, I need 50,000. If you don't have, say, instead, it's much more powerful if you say, I need $12,500 to buy this piece of equipment because it will save me this amount of time that I can invest towards other parts of my business. That's much more powerful. So there's a lot of alternative lenders and nonprofit lenders in New York City that will not only work with businesses to prepare the application and to get financing, but also provide business development support. And then with these lenders, what's great is that as you repay, your credit score gets established. And once you can show that with your business, you have a positive history of taking on debt, of repaying it, then you have a much stronger case when you are ready to go back to your bank to get a loan. Because the banks will have a lower interest rate, and you can get more money from a bank than you could from an alternative lender. So that, I mean, potentially that's kind of the goal, to get to the banks. Hopefully Carver Bank. And be able to get a bigger, more low interest loan. And what SBS does, so if I had come here a year ago when I was working at Axion, I would say come to Axion if you need financing. But now that I work for SBS, what the amazing thing that SBS does, they have 7 small business solution centers.
Can you just say, what does SBS stand for again?
The Small Business Services, Department of Small Business Services. And SBS has 7 business solution centers throughout the city. And they help businesses, they help people review their financials and prepare to go to a lender and help select which lender is most likely to support your business and at the lowest rate possible. There's some lenders that prefer collateral over cash flow. There's some lenders that have specific funds that allow them to be flexible for specific industries. So going to these business solution centers are really important because they know the nuances of the underwriting of all these different lenders and can help prepare you to also really make a strong pitch for for the amount of financing that you need and how to use it well. So if you're looking for financing, I encourage you to go to the Business Solution Centers. They also have really good relationship with lenders too, and can give you that warm introduction to different lenders that are out there. And then finally, it helps avoid you to do loan shopping, because each time you're applying to a loan, it's a hard credit pull, and that's a ding on your credit. So if you go, the idea is to get financing the first time you apply, because then each time you go to another bank or another lender, they see all the different lenders that may have not given you money before and turned you down. And that's not good, because they're like, well, why didn't that other lender give you money? It may have been just because your specific, the specific credit profile or different type of industry that lender may not have experience with.
So thank you for that, and hopefully you all wrote that down, Small Business Solutions, and we're gonna make appointments because these are services provided by the city to support the growth of small businesses. Now, Tony, one of the things that we were excited about with regards to the Shop Black Network, and for those of you who don't know, Shop Black is an online destination that connects exceptional businesses run by people of African descent to consumers worldwide via dynamic digital content and social engagements. You have an international focus and an international approach, so you're not just looking solely at entrepreneurs here in America writ large, but you're global.
Right.
And so in that regard, what are some of the things that entrepreneurs here in Brooklyn, New York can be thinking about as it pertains to international markets, and remembering that Black people aren't just here in Brooklyn, New York, and there's a big wide world. How do entrepreneurs access that, and how should they be thinking about how they can position themselves for international opportunities?
Okay. So first, it definitely
And you
is.
can, I'm sorry, if you just pull the mic just close so you can speak directly in. Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, very white. It is a big wide world, and a lot of businesses in the U.S. kind of think of, okay, this is my territory right here, all 50 states, I'm going to focus on this. But you're not thinking about there's Africa, there's the UK, there's Germany, there's wherever, there's Europe, right? You have the internet, and these people want to buy from you also. Black people are trendsetters. So whatever you're creating in terms of whether it's music or fashion or food or beauty and hair care products, people are like, okay, it's created in the U.S. The U.S. actually has a reputation for quality. So for instance, I'm originally from Nigeria. You can tell, by my middle name, right? And in Nigeria right now, there's a movement towards natural hair care. So people are kind of like getting away from like the whole, whether it's weaves or perms or whatnot, they're embracing their natural hair. And Africa has like natural resources. It's the richest continent, period. So everything is there. So historically, people have realized that, all the gold's there, all the diamonds are there, everything is in Africa. Let's go there, milk that fish, and bring it to our country, right? So what we're trying to do now, what I'm passionate about is letting people know that, okay, we're all, whether you like it or not, I know whether you're from Chicago or Brooklyn or the Bronx, you're from Africa, as far as I'm concerned. That's home to you, or that's home to me, that's your home. As well as here, obviously, for whatever reason. But I want us all to connect with Africa. I want us all to connect with whether it's Senegal, Nigeria, Ghana, because there are people there who are looking to you here to connect also. Like there's a divide between us for whatever reason. Well, I guess we know the reasons, white supremacy. So we're all divided along different lines, whether it's like you're light skinned, you're dark skinned, you're from this tribe, you speak this language, you're from this block, you're from that block. I'm like, why are there so many divisions? At the end of the day, we're all black. 1 billion people in Africa. That's not counting outside. So that's your market right there. If you're selling t-shirts, you have 1 billion people ready to buy your t-shirt in Africa right now. You're selling skincare, hair care, 1 billion people are ready to buy it there right now. You have 1 billion, okay, maybe not everybody in Africa is ready to partner with you at this point in time. But there are a lot of people who do have it together, business-wise, and they're like potential partners for you. So let's say, for instance, now, what I was actually glad to hear you say is you do private labeling. So you help people put their products together. Like, let's say you have you want to put a skincare line together. You can go to her, she'll put your packaging, stick your name on it, boom, there's your product. I'm going back to the natural resources now. Whether it's shea butter, whether it's, like the black soap that's there, connect with someone that's there who has access to those resources. Use your marketing genius over here. The internet is making so many things possible right now. Connect with that man, that woman. Hey, I had this following on Instagram. They're following me for whatever reason. I like what you're doing in terms of hair care, skin care, music, film, whatever it is. Let's connect, start a conversation there, and see where that leads. Of course, put your legal stuff in order as well. Don't just blindly be like, hey, you're cool, let's do business. That's not how things go, right? So at the end of the day, what I want us to do is connect with our brothers and sisters, connect as one people. I literally forgot what the question was, but this was on my mind, and I had to get it out because I'm passionate about us connecting and like bridging the gap between people on the continent, black people on the continent, and everyone in the diaspora. All right. So, like I said, if you're not open to it right now, actually, I'll give you my email address. Hit me up about what industry you're interested in, what you're trying to get into. Is Tony@shopblack.us. Tony@shoppeblack.us. Tell me what industry it is that you're interested in getting into or you're into right now. And if you don't have any plans on connecting with anybody there, that's fine. There's also the UK as well. That's another huge market. Black people in the UK, they actually look up to black people in America, right? So with the whole Black Lives Matter thing, they started their whole Black Lives in the UK thing also, and they're passionate about this as well. Because the same situations that are happening to us here, they're happening to them there. The same situations that are happening to us here are happening in Paris. Literally today, we posted on the Shop Black Facebook page about a brother in Paris who got sodomized by police by accident.
By accident.
Right. I'm not sure how that happens.
That's the official report.
That's the official report, exactly.
So this is your passion question.
Right.
So if I'm a black business owner in
Right.
Brooklyn, New York, what are the 3 things I should be thinking about if I want to expand? How do I go from I'm inspired to expand, I know there is some connection culturally, however many connections there may be between me and the continent, how do I then take this desire and actually manifest that?
Go to trade.gov, trade.gov. That's the U.S. website for all things international trade, right? So they'll tell you the information on pretty much any country in the world, all the opportunities that exist there, how to get started in terms of who to contact within those countries. Like they have what they call commercial agents, and they're all stationed across Africa, and they're stationed in the Middle East and Europe as well. So whatever country it is that you're interested in, start with trade.gov. They have information on, let's say it's agriculture, all the agricultural opportunities, whether it's energy, all the energy opportunities. So that's a great place to start, trade.gov, and they'll point you in the right direction. Okay, I want to start connecting internationally. That's the best place to start.
Okay. So one of the things that I often have issue with, and when I was in private practice as an attorney, there was a period where I left corporate law where I had multi-billion-dollar clients, and I went into small corporate law where I had mom-and-pop type stores, wonderful, wonderful work, people who are really connected to their product in a very powerful way. I would have someone come to my office, say, Larry, I want to start a business, I want to start a restaurant, I just signed the lease, and now I'm going to be selling, we'll go with the example you mentioned, tacos. I'm going to be selling tacos out of this business, and I'm excited about it. I want to bring on a partner. You notice how they're already in process, right? They're setting up an appointment with an attorney, having already signed leases, having already executed contracts, and then something happens, and that's usually when they would show up in my office. Now, before I went into business, I was wise enough to get access to folks like Celeste in the WeVo, which is the Workshops in Business Opportunities program. It's a 16-week, I call it a mini MBA program for small business owners. It is free. You have to buy the book, but it's a very affordably priced. You should go to wibo.org. That's WeVo. And one of the things I learned in that class, and this was something that I was very grateful for, and Celeste, I'm going to ask you to speak more to this. If you are a restaurateur
and you're going to be selling tacos and your tacos have tomatoes, you should be able to price how much each tomato slice is going to cost you and how much that tomato slice is going to generate for you. And in fact, I was in Weibo class with many people who were going to start a restaurant. By the time someone like Celeste got through running their numbers, they said, you know, this is not going to work for me. This is not something that I need to do. Celeste, how can people get access to figuring out how to make those types of calculations? If you don't have an MBA and you haven't run those types of numbers, what are some things you can do to be able to take these grand ideas and pinpoint them down to some hard numbers that you will be able to use for projections and decision-making going forward?
Boy, you asked me the tough questions. First of all, you should take Weibo because they have 2 or 3 classes that are dedicated to this, what is called break even. Break even. So break even is a method or methods where you put down all your expenses. And it helps you to think through all your expenses. So you discovered your expenses after you were already in the middle of it. You don't want to have that happen, but sometimes you don't know what you don't know. Okay, and so you start and you get into something when you haven't put down all what might be involved. Sometimes you don't know, but you have to start asking questions to everybody in the world. So now, just like she's able to tell people, look, this is what you really got to watch out for. Because if you get a $150,000 order from Target, you're like, I'm on my way to millionairehood and billionairehood, but you don't put down all your expenses. So for a lot of us, we don't even put in what is the salary that we want to make. I know that was a mistake that I had in the beginning before I went to legal and started thinking about my expenses. When I started, we didn't have internet the same way you guys have it now. So you can go online and get break-even tables and sheets and all of that, and you start putting in your expenses. The expense of an owner in New York is not going to be the same as somebody in Cleveland. So, you know, the Big Black Book, I don't know how many people ever heard of it, but that's what I used to do, the Black Business Directory. It was hundreds of businesses in New York City that were Black-owned. After I started, I discovered other people in different cities that also did it, and we got an organization together. But it took me a little while to figure out how come they were driving Mercedes and I still had my hoopty Nissan. And if I was charging the same amount as they were for ads, then I'm really not making that type of money. And it was a little harder to figure that out, but that's what you have: variable costs and you have fixed costs. And you have to know that what those are. Some things like your rent every month, that's fixed, right? But how many pages I was going to have to print each time was a variable cost, depending on how many ads we got and so forth. That was kind of tricky. The cost of paper was also variable, because every year the cost of paper would go up. And that didn't really depend on something that was happening in the United States. Paper became in demand internationally. And so in my first years of business, I didn't have to think about that. But then I had to think about it later, much like you had to think about how the returns were going to go, because that first $150,000 order, you don't even think you're getting returns, right?
Well, no, I've always known my numbers.
Okay.
So let's make that clear. I've always known my numbers.
Okay. But sometimes you don't really always know how much of it is going to happen, okay? But you have to try to know, just like she said she knew. You always want to try to figure out, how is this going to happen? What's going to be the scale of it? Is this, and some things you might not be able to predict, and you should put in some money, some allocation for that. So always think about every single expense you're going to have. And I want to say, record your revenue. When you start going, I know how we like to say, I don't want to pay taxes. Let's do business have no track record or no way to prove how much money that your business really takes in. So record your revenue, report it, and make sure that taxes is part of what you have figured out in your break even. Make sure that you figured out, I'm gonna need employees. What are the type of expenses that go along with that? Okay, once you have an employee, you have to pay certain things, right? What are those things? Social Security. They put in some, you put in some. What else? Workers' comp, okay? If people get hurt on the job, this is not an option. This is a requirement. What else? What's that? Sick time, that's an option, okay? Which you should give your employees sick time. It's not exactly required, but you should be doing it. Although now it is required, right? Okay, that's new to the top of the Unemployment insurance, that's also required. So you have to know, you have to put these things in. Usually they say you should do that 35% of what the person's salary is going to be. That's in addition to what you're paying them. These are other expenses you have to have. You're going to have an attorney. You know, Lori, she has to eat too. And that's another thing. Yeah, I'm sure you didn't speak on it, Lori, but they feel like they should just come to the attorney's office and just get a little advice. And I only talk to you for 15 minutes, or, you know, you could just tell me this, or they'll come to your office, they just call you up. So for those of you that are consultants, don't do business that way. You have an hourly rate, and even the people, you might decide, I can give you an hour of free consultation and make it worth their while so they come back, but you can't keep giving away what you have for free. Only samples. Only samples you can give away, or you could write a book. They could buy the book, or you could give the book away for samples. Those are just marketing ideas. But as far as your money goes, you need to really make sure you know. Look up break even and see how it should work. And then, just like you talk to the lawyer, why not get an accountant? An accountant who knows your industry. So an accountant who knows about the paper industry might not know about the beauty industry, or might not know about the healthcare industry. So you try to find an accountant that has some familiarity with the industry that you're in. And the accountants can tell you a lot about how your money would work, and about the taxes that you should pay, about the bookkeeping that you should have. This thing, receipts in a paper bag, receipts in a shoebox. Okay. Oh, shit, somebody has it. No, this is not going to work for you, okay? And don't wait till the end of the year to try. Now you got to, you're familiar? Don't wait till the end of the year to try to get all your receipts together, and now I'm going to my accountant, and then you got all this, and not only did you wait till the end of the year, but you waited until April 14th too, right? Okay? We just can't operate like that. We should actually be getting it in the QuickBooks or something like that on a monthly basis so that you can do some analysis. We don't like to analyze. We just want to do the business. But we have to do some analysis. You should know how to read the profit and loss statement. If you don't know how to read it, get to some type of a course that's going to help you. Even the IRS has courses. It's okay for you to go to the IRS and get some courses. They know you already. They know where you bank. They know who you are. So you don't have to keep yourself secret for them. Take advantage of what they have to offer. Okay? And so everything about money, you started your business to make money and have a profit. Don't avoid what you need to do. Learn, I had a bookkeeper. It wasn't an accountant, a bookkeeper. And so she was doing my books, and I asked for reports to see. So she was doing maybe a quarterly report. And I started looking at it, and I found that girlfriend actually, when she couldn't get the thing to balance, she put in some numbers. She just stuck them in somewhere. But if I didn't know how to read that report, I wouldn't have been able to know that. So you have financial people. You want to trust them, but you have to check their work because you have to sign on the bottom line for that tax return and whatever. And even shopping for your bank. You could go to New York State banking website. I don't know exactly the whole URL, but just put in New York State banking. The Department of Banking. They have on that website a list of all the banks in the state and what the services are that they have. So you can be able to see if they charge for business bank accounts, if they charge you for deposits, if they charge you for withdrawals. You'll be able to do some comparisons and come up with a bank that works for you. Because every different business is going to have different banking needs. And now you can see it all right there online, right there in front of you.
So that was extremely helpful, and I hope you guys got those resources down. And for those of you who are watching online, we're going to have these posted in our Facebook page. I want to shift a little bit to some of the softer side of the discussion. So we're honest in this space, and we like to be clear about the historical implications and the ways that white supremacy, slavery, and that culture impact the way we interact with each other. I want to talk for a minute about customer service. And the reason I want to talk about customer service, why y'all laughing? Okay, so you see where I'm going with the setup, right? Customer service in our community tends to be something that, in my personal opinion, I'm going to take my official hat off and say my personal opinion is something that is lacking in many ways. And part of that is due to the fact that we are all taught to embrace anti-blackness. We are all taught to think that whiteness is more valuable, blackness is less valuable. We had several hundreds of years where if I did not ignore what you were telling me and pay attention to what my white master was ordering me to do, I could lose my life. I could be sold away. So there is some deference that is built in culturally because we recognize that learning how to make white people feel comfortable is often something that can save our life. We see that with the police now, but it's just something that culturally we've had to adapt to. When it comes to customer service, we can often see strains of that within the way we interact with each other. And so, Karen, I'm looking at you because I know you've had employees, and we've had conversations offline in our private lives about how we'll go into a black-owned business, expect to be treated like a customer, and then we're not. Recognize it all, but someone who does not look like us might come in and get wonderful service, and we're wondering, wow, what happened and what just went on there? And I think, Tony, this speaks to some of what you were mentioning earlier. When it comes to teaching our employees how to embrace the idea of customer service and how to provide that, what are some of the challenges that you've noticed, and what are some of the things that you were able to focus your employees' attention on that would help them really treat the customer base the way you would hope that the customer base is being treated?
Well, part of what I do when I interview people is I'm very intuitive. I pay attention, and as most businesses, and including this country, it is ruled basically from the top down. The personality of the top person is the personality that the business manifests. And so because I know my personality is that of a person who's welcoming, I love people, I want to share information, I want to help my customers, I want to be 100% honest. When I interview, I look for people who reflect that same energy, that same kind of personality. And so from the minute that someone walks in the door, to when I have my store in particular, even my factory, the way they greet me, the way they look at me, the way they sit there while they're waiting for me to get to them, I pay attention to all of that. I pay attention to they called me on the phone, how did you interact with me, how did you interact with my staff who answered the phone, so on and so forth. So I think you have to look beyond what is right in front of your face when you are hiring people. Now, did you ask me about hiring people, or are you just talking about customer service in general?
Both. You can speak to both if necessary. It's important in the hiring, but in the actual training of staff to reflect the type of treatment you'd like your customers to experience.
So in hiring the type of people that I just described, it makes training easier because now I know that in general, these people are at least leaning towards the place where I want them to be as representatives of my business. And so I make it clear, I'm not a dictator or anything like that, that I'm paying you to represent my business a certain way. So if you had a fight with your boyfriend this morning, or your kid didn't, act right when you sent them off to school this morning, not my problem. I'm sorry to hear that, but we doing work here, and part of the work that you're doing, that I'm paying you to do, is to take care of the customers to put their interests and their questions and helping them first. So all of that other stuff aside, what we're doing here is a specific task. And so it's easier for me to bring those potential employees to that place if I, from the door, was paying attention to who they were when they walked in and presented who they were to me. So I think that is, it's as simple as, you know, what did Maya Angelou say, when someone shows you, when they show you who they are, believe them, period. So I think I use all of that to determine if I'm going to even hire you before I get to a place where now I got to train you and you're hard-headed and you don't listen and you got all kind of feelings that you get into every day, every morning. You woke up on the wrong side of the bed, so now you're going to talk to the customers crazy. That's not going to happen because I didn't hire you in the first place. So it's easy. So I've had a really good experience hiring and training my staff and not having any aberrations from being the people that I need them to be in order to represent my business.
I wanted to say something about that. You know, yesterday, this is kind of another side of it. I was in Harlem yesterday, and I passed by the H&M store on 125th Street. Their window was so dirty, I never saw anything like it. Okay, I know that the one in Brooklyn never looks like that. And so that also is about what we will tolerate in our particular community.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
and so we'll go in there and we'll shop and everything will be okay. But when you go into a black-owned business and something goes wrong, you walk out and you say, oh, those black people, they don't know how to do business. But we'll shop at H&M all day and all night, no matter how they do it. And so if we go into a business that is owned by a black person, then we, as consumers, and I know most people in here are business owners, but consumers have to give us a little respect too as business owners. And if there's a problem, please let me know.
That's right.
Okay, and maybe that's a sign that you can put up. You know, if you have a problem, you know, please ask for, let us know what your problem is. And then actually, as you're a smart business owner, you will address that problem with a smile and a little bit of a change because the customer is always right, even when they're wrong. But you want to be able to solve the problem. I remember when I was doing the Blackwood, I had one guy, he and I, we just didn't seem, somehow our vibrations couldn't work. And so one day he called and I answered the phone. My secretary was not, my secretary was busy. I answered the phone and it was him. And so he's like, oh, I didn't call to talk to you. And so I'm like, okay, no problem. Let me put Sharon on right away. Because somehow him and I, but he paid for his ad every year. Okay, something about the business was okay, just something about me wasn't clicking with him. So don't get yourself all in a twit about that because you're the head of the business. That he liked to talk to my secretary. There wasn't nothing going on emotional. He just liked to talk about that. And I liked it that he could talk to her because everybody doesn't need to talk to me. So you're the business owner. And you have to figure out what's really going to work in my business. How will I give good customer service? And you should think about that every day. But also on the other side of it, let's not tolerate bad customer service from others.
That's right. They say the hardest thing to do is to love when people talk to hate themselves. So when we're planning for our business and our customer service frameworks, we have to incorporate that history in that work, right? So as we're getting ready to come to our last question, if you have questions in the audience, both here or those of you who are watching online, we have a mic here if you'd like to make your way down. These will be for questions as opposed to statements. If you are someone who does have wisdom you would like to share with an audience in a more elaborate, long form, we can certainly talk about setting up future panels, but we are going to restrict this particular portion to questions. I thank you all for receiving that in the spirit of the but as we're preparing, there's just this final question as maybe I'm going to be coming to you specifically about MWBE stuff. And Celeste, this may be something that you can chime in on as well. One of the things my husband often remarks on when we're getting up and we're leaving work is all of the people who look like us get up in the morning and we leave Bed-Stuy, we get on trains and we go to work. And then all these people, as we're heading to the train or getting off the trains, may or may not look like us, coming to the
stores, lifting up the gates and opening up all the buildings, that they're going to provide the services and sell the goods that the community is going to buy throughout the day. And we talked in our last session about the need for organic financing, because as Liddy mentioned, a lot of us can't go to a bank and just get a loan and be taken seriously, or really be valued the way that we should. And we talked in our last session about SUSUs and how SUSUs, and this was just one of the many forms of financing that we mentioned, but how there are many communities that are organically embracing of the idea of SUSUs. It is a cultural thing, and so they're not just doing SUSUs so that you can buy clothes for your kids and you can buy cat food, but they're doing SUSUs for down payments on a home. They're doing SUSUs to open up businesses, to generate some of that capital that Liddy was talking about earlier. As it pertains to minority and women business opportunities in particular, and because we know that the mayor just announced a bigger initiative with the MWBE program, there are other opportunities that we can access by virtue of the fact that we come from communities that are historically underrepresented. Liddy, can you speak to a bit about the MWBE program, explain what it is and how people can access that, and then that will be, essentially, we'll have some closing comments after that, but then for folks who are thinking about questions, we invite you to come down to the mic.
I wanted to add one thing before I get into the MWBE commitment that to what you were speaking about earlier about exports. The state actually has an amazing grant program. So if you have a business and you're thinking about exporting, they will give you pretty sizable grants to go to trade conferences, to ramp up your business to do exports. And so if you're interested in that, let me know and I can tell you more about it. But it's not often where you can actually get a grant. It's not a loan. So, so the mayor has announced a new commitment to allocating more of the city's dollars to MWBEs. In the past year,
Can you explain what's an MWBE?
Oh, sorry. MWBE stands for Minority and Women Business Owned Enterprise. So the city has contracts $16 billion each year to do everything from having photographers at events, to catering, to doing construction, to wholesaling goods for the city. Tons of different things the city contracts. And it's not just construction projects. And the budget is $16 billion. Last year, 14% of this went to MWBEs, Minority and Women Business Owned Enterprises. But the commitment is to get to 30%. So right now, all agencies have a strong commitment, and they have to do this to allocate more money, dollars to MWBEs. So if you have a business that you think could contract with the city, then it's very important to get MWBE certified in order to qualify for these contracts, and it will make your business more competitive in the contracting process. Contracting with the city isn't easy, so SBS has a lot of different resources available, one-on-one technical assistance, to help you prepare a bid, help you find procurement and contracting opportunities, and also and then other business development opportunities as well. The SBS also partners with corporations so that to get corporations to increase their supplier diversity, exactly what you were talking about earlier, where SBS is working with a lot of corporations to say, okay, we're increasing our commitment, will you increase your commitment with us? So the SBS also helps businesses connect to corporate contracting opportunities. What the two programs that I'm managing one is a contract financing loan fund that gives businesses up to $500,000 at 3% APR.
I'm sorry, could you repeat those numbers?
It's a $10 million loan fund. It gives loans up to $500,000 at an interest rate of 3% APR. This is a really good, APR means it's annualized. So sometimes if you say you have a contract and you want to get a factoring loan in order to mobilize to do a contract, the rate could be 1% per month, or 1% per week after a month, and this is 3% for the whole, annualized over a whole year, so it's substantially less. So what's exciting about this program is that it aligns your a business's repayment terms with the contract payment terms. So typically with a loan, it's a monthly term. You get a loan, you have to pay it every month. But if you're a contractor, then that's really hard because your cash flow isn't monthly. It's when you get paid from the city, then or from the whoever you're contracting with. That's that's when you get paid. So this aligns the payment terms with the city's payments. And what's also exciting is that we're working with city agencies so that the repayment on a loan comes directly from the city agency. So that makes lenders more willing to do these type of loans because it's an additional security for them. And then we're also doing, and if you have any questions about that fund, you can ask me afterwards, and I can also give you my card. And then we also have a surety bond program that's funded with $10 million, but that's an insurance product for construction companies. Are there any construction companies in the room? One. Okay, well we can talk afterwards. But it's a program to help businesses get bonded, which is really hard to break into surety bonding. So those are two programs that the city's doing to help reach this 30% goal. But if you have a business or a service or a product that you think the city would contract and you haven't worked with the city before, I encourage you to think about coming to SBS and talking about how to get NWBE certified and also start winning contracts.
Celeste, I know you used to run this program, and its earlier state. Is there any wisdom you'd like to provide as your closing comment?
Yes, I ran it, and it's oh my goodness.
You probably talk first.
No. It's a little bit frustrating because these programs were made to help us do better, and they actually started back. Minority Women Business Programs actually started under Nixon. Okay, the Republican who thought that it was empowering for us as minorities and women to be in business and to be able to get money through government contracting. So this has been going on, since the 80s, and still we struggle. And now when the mayor, and you could tell the mayor I said this, but
I don't know him.
If he's
now the program, he announced it and he said it's going to take 5 years. How come we have to take 5 years to get something that we should have already had? I just don't understand that part. So that's my soapbox about it. You have to be in business at least for a year. You need a year's work. You need to have tax returns. Tax returns. I keep coming back to that. The IRS knows where you are. You have a bank account, they know about you. So you need to do your record keeping and file your taxes and pay them, okay? So you have to give tax returns. They usually, if you've been in business longer, they want at least 3 years of your tax returns. That's for the city, for the state, and for the federal government. There's minority and women business programs at each level. You also, this government contracting is not for wuss. Okay, you cannot be a wuss and get involved with this. You have to put out money and wait to get paid. And even when they say they'll pay you in 30 days, their 30 days is kind of like God created the earth in 7 days, when it was 1 million years. So you have to have cash flow to put in as you're waiting to get paid. And if you're in construction, it's even more important that you have that cash flow because you have to pay your workers, and it's a lot more expensive in construction. And one of the things that does frustrate me sometimes is that this programs focus a lot on construction business, but actually we have more businesses outside of construction. But I do like, it's always some good stuff. I do like that they have this one-on-one program now, where you can meet with people of the city, and then you tell them what your business is, and they try to help you look at the different agencies. There's, 40 different agencies that New York City has, and they buy all kinds of things. They do buy beauty products. They do buy divers. Okay, the MTA, which is really the state, they need people to go in the water and stuff like that. So you would be surprised at the type of things that the government really buys. They buy books. Okay, they buy lots of different things. So
Services too.
yeah, they buy a lot of services, which we give a lot of services. Sometimes they even buy hairdressing. Okay, I mean, like like people that do your hair. Okay, so you have to be able to know how to research those things. So when she was talking about the one-on-one, I think you should really take advantage of that, because that's going to put you in the right direction, and then you have to allocate time to sit down and search for these opportunities. They're doing a lot better now at, when you register, you have to put in certain commodity codes. The people know about SIC codes and those things. That's like that's a government numerical system. So if you do this certain if you do in marketing, you have these numbers and all of this, but you would be able to, you can look that up all the time. And depending on what type of business you have, you want to make sure that you register for those particular codes. And you can register for more than 1 or 2 or 10, as long as that's where you really have your expertise. And then what they do is, if they see a certain contract is available, they look at all the people that have registered in that code or related codes, and then they'll send you a heads up. The city does it and the state does it. And so you want to be able to find out the opportunities, but you also want to be able to look it up yourself. You want to be able to target certain agencies too. Find out the agencies that buy what you have to sell, and become thoroughly familiar with how they operate when they put out requests for bids and all of that sort of thing. So as I say, to get into government contracting, you should be a well-established business. You should already be strong, and then go into getting government contracts.
Thank you for that. So any closing comments, Tony and Karen? Any final words of wisdom you'd like to share?
I think the most important thing that you should continue to know, as I'm sure many of you know, is the importance of doing research before you do anything, before you make any decisions that you act upon in your business, because I think you can avoid a lot of the pitfalls, obviously, if you do your research and see who else has done that same thing, see how it's worked out for them, and if they have a similar business to yours, whether it's worked out well or it hasn't, you can save yourself a lot of trouble. You can save yourself a lot of headache if it didn't work out well. You could save yourself from making that mistake, save money, save time, save the headache. Or if it worked out really well, you can say, okay, well, how did that work well for them? How can I spin that into something that will work well for the way I'm positioning my business? And kind of go from there, instead of kind of just throwing anything to the wind because you think it's a good idea, because your roommate told you it was a great idea, because your mama believes in you and thinks that any and everything you do is going to turn to gold, because that's not necessarily true. I think another thing you need to pay attention to is that you should avoid sharing your big ideas with small-minded people. Everybody got an opinion. Small business is not for the faint of heart. So you got a lot of people who, they may be smart, they may have what you think your best interest at heart, but they have no idea what they're talking about. And they say things with passion, they say it like, you gotta do it this way, I know what I'm talking about. Don't necessarily go in that direction just because somebody said something emphatically, and they said it passionately, and they told you that they know what they're talking about, because that's not necessarily true. In fact, I would argue that most of the time it's not true if they're really, really over, emphatic and passionate about it, and you know that they have no experience. I think those are the two things that will kind of set you in a good path to success with your business. Avoid foolish people who and avoid being foolish yourself and do the research you need to do in order to make the wise decisions that you need to make sure your business wins.
So this is for the consumers in the audience, which we're all consumers at the end of the day. When it comes to Black-owned businesses, let's try and get rid of the stigmas that we have, whether it's okay. We have mentioned issues with customer service, but that's not all Black businesses, right?
That's right.
So there's a I guess a danger, for lack of a better term, with generalizing, oh, all Black businesses are like this or all Black businesses are like that. From working on and with Shop Black, I've come across so many dope Black businesses where I'm like, before I even started, I was like, wow, I didn't even know that this existed. Like literally there's a sister who is creating a business to get garbage out of space. I didn't even know there was garbage in space, right? So we're doing like so many things, and like sometimes we're like, oh, we don't have options, but we do have options, and yeah, we need to create more in terms of a variety of businesses. Like let's say like almond milk. I don't know if any Black-owned almond milk brand there is, but somebody needs to do that, right? So in case we're boycotting, whatever, hey, we have an option. So in terms of the consumers, don't count Black businesses out. Many of them are doing amazing, amazing, amazing things. You can go to shopblack.us and find out more about them.
How can someone get their business listed with Shop Black?
Oh yeah, just go to shopblack.us, click on the submit button. It'll give you instructions on how to send it to us. We have a database of a lot of businesses right now. So we will release that information later. But we'd love to have your business listed with us so people can know more about you. In terms of the business owners. So one thing that we've come across is we get a lot of emails about, oh, we saw you did a feature on so-and-so, I want you to feature me. I'm like, all right, let's research this person. And you go to their Facebook page and you can barely tell what this picture is because it's so blurry, and just be aware of aesthetics, right? If you could have the best barbecue sauce, the best hairdressing, whatever it is you have, you could be the best at your industry or whatever, but no one's going to give you a chance if your website looks janky, as my wife usually says, right? So that just counts you out off the bat, like, for this website, they're done. So imagery is key, clear images, high resolution pictures. Even if you don't even have $5 in the bank and all you have is one head wrap to sell, your website could make you look like you have a whole conglomerate and you're selling head wraps from here to Pakistan, all right? So that image is key. Get that sorted out. Your website should look great. Whether it's a customer service number for people to call you, Google is free. Google has free voice numbers for you to call. There are lots of free tools for business owners out there. Just literally Google free small business tools, and so many will come up that'll help you in terms of your social media. People are selling on Facebook, they're selling on Instagram. Get plugged into that. That's free also to do ads on Facebook. $5, $9, $10 here and there. You spend that on some expensive burritos or whatever anyway. So just invest in yourself towards your business. So wrapping up, business owners, get your stuff together. Aim for excellence. Consumers, give Black businesses a chance. Don't count them out. Don't buy into the stigmas.
Give them more than a chance. Give them your money.
I want to say something else like that. Canva, C-A-N-V-A. That is just marvelous. I just heard about it in the summertime, but this is where you do your graphics, you do your business cards, you can get social media templates and all of this. As a matter of fact, I just finished making my business card on Canva and they look so fabulous. But also, if you know nothing about graphics, nothing, then do try to get a professional to do something if you can, when you get some money that you can set. Oh, there's a graphic artist in the audience?
No, I'm saying praise like that statement.
Yeah. Oh, here's a graphic artist right here. These are people that know what they're doing. Okay? You might be able to get on camera and get a certain amount of things done, but then look at it and see, does this look like I want people to see me? Because sometimes you're a little messy with that. You cannot take a picture just because there's a space this wide. You cannot just take the picture and squish it up. Oh my goodness, this is what the people are putting on their websites. This is not professional kinds of things. So see what you can do with Canva or something free like that, but if it's not coming out good, get yourself a professional.
I see. And so we're going to open it. Well, and let's just thank you all for that. Questions, and I just wanted to say, just as we're coming to the first question, just in summation, let us not fear paper, and by that I mean agreements, partnership agreements, contracts, hiring templates, meeting with professionals. There are experts here. I encourage you to bum rush them gently. At the end of the program, get their card, get access to the information. There are resources here for us to access. And then think about the products that are outside of the box. We've talked about hair products and natural beauty products. There are Black-owned toilet paper companies. It's Freedom Paper. There's a Black-owned laundry detergent company, True Detergent. So there are things that we can be, my husband and I wanted to buy black, and then we had to buy diapers. And we were like, whoa, who can we get black diapers from? So there are things, there are needs that are out there. There are creative people in this space. We all know access to people and have access to people who are genius inside them, but we definitely want to professionalize our access to the resources that can help us bring that out. Am I right? Yes, I am. Thank you. Okay, yes to this question here.
I'm not sure who's in charge of this event, but I just wanted to say thank you for whoever.
Center for Law and Social Justice and Medgar Evers College in partnership with New York Life Insurance.
Thank you very much. I only have a question, but I wanted to make an announcement. I know this is a long event. Thank you. But they're serving food upstairs on the second floor. If you want, you can take the stairs. As soon as you walk out, there's a staircase. You can take the stairs.
Are you coaching my audience? Go ahead, sis. Go ahead.
Or you can take the elevator. It's free. You just walk in. But I know they will check your bags because they want to make sure you're safe. The event finishes at 12, so feel free. I wanted to ask you. You said that there's like free places to get so where would you get? Someone said buy books. Like, where is it? Like used books or books that people write? Like, is it for like writers? Who would I like? What website? Or,
You mean who would purchase books?
yeah, the government. One of the government programs.
So you have to go on to, well, maybe you can tell them more about how New York City would do it. The federal government, I forget what their website is that tells you where they buy, what they buy. But you can just Google these things and it will come up. But you can go to, oh my goodness, I'm just blanking on the federal government buying website.
Fedbiz.org.
I'm not sure, that's not what I remember, but
This is for procurement type searches?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're looking for government procurement programs, and procurement being the term that essentially means how the entity can purchase and get access to your products. Libby, are you aware of the city version of that?
Yeah, if you go to nyc.gov/NYC business, and if you can, the website's a little bit hard to navigate, but you can find different procurement opportunities in the NWBE section of the website.
Okay, thank you.
yes, and if you, they have a free service that the federal government uses called SCORE, S-C-O-R-E. They actually do it at the Brooklyn Public Library at Grand Army Plaza. And so if you want to find out a lot of things about federal contracting and even just business in general, SCORE is the retired executives. I forgot what the SCO is, but the RE is for retired executives. So these are people who have been in business and they counsel people now who want to be in business. And you could get a lot of good information out of them. And now also the Brooklyn Public Library at Grand Army Plaza has like a business center upstairs on the second floor. And there's a lot of resources and books and things available upstairs there as well.
Thank you.
And in your packets, you also have access to information put together for you by the staff at CLSJ. There is information from the U.S. Small Business Administration Agency, articles on whether or not entrepreneurship is for you, 20 questions you should be asking before you start a business, 10 steps to actually start that business, how to choose a business structure. So this is just the beginning. The websites are included there, but we hope that you'll be able to take this information and jump off from that point. Yes, go right ahead.
This question, I guess, is for Libby and Celeste. As far as the city being tardy on paying back with within those 30 days. As in regards to small businesses needing to have, take care of payroll and other things that could, drive them out of business, is the loan going to address those things as far as, okay, now that I have to wait longer than the 30 days expected, would the lenders take that into account that, the city hasn't paid yet, so we're gonna ease out just in case this goes over the year or the term?
Yes, with the loan fund program, we know that delays happen more often than, well, maybe not more often than not, but more often than they should, and in payments. And the loans are structured in that 3% APR to be flexible with that, so that the businesses aren't being penalized in terms of those costs, those interest costs piling up as they're waiting for payment. So that's also the beauty of this program, is that it's really designed to help businesses not have to pay for interest when they're waiting for payment.
There are also entities that if you have a contract, they'll lend you some money till you get paid on the contract, as long as they see that you have a contract. I don't know, does the city have one of those now?
Yeah, so it's the contract financing loan fund. So it gives money at different points when you're bidding on a contract. It'll give a conditional letter of approval to help enhance your application. Say you won the contract and you need upfront capital, you can access financing at that point too. Or say you're already performing, there's change orders, unexpected things arise, you can get financing at that point too. Or say that you're waiting on payment and you owe you have to, pay off this equipment to payroll, to keep paying for insurance, and you're waiting for that payment, you can also access the fund then as well. And then there's also services at SBS to help. Also, sometimes the delays can be filling out the payment requests, not getting in all the information. They can help also navigate that process of getting paid with the different agencies too.
And also they have something called factoring. I haven't used it in quite a long time, but there are companies that will buy your invoices, so to speak.
But that's what this program does, and it's way less expensive, because factoring can be, that's a really good option.
Well, I'm just now saying outside of the city, you might, if you're not having a city contract, this might be your alternative, but you also have to factor in the expense of it. But it is an alternative. The factoring people will buy your invoice for a certain percent of them. So if that's something you can afford, it can help your cash flow as well as called factoring, and you can, again, search that on the internet. I just love the internet, I'm old enough to have existed when you didn't have it. You had to go to the library for everything. You guys have it good now, okay? And if you wanted, you couldn't send an email. You had to call a person and catch them on the phone. So there's a lot of good things about it. I think it does help us work longer hours though, because I could send email at 1 a.m. and I couldn't talk to people at 1 a.m. Okay, final question here. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My question is for Tony. Given your experience in niche marketing, what are some of your tips for Black business owners to kind of navigate the stigmatization that we have within the Black community, within our psyche, as we do business with each other?
Navigate the stigmatization within our psyche?
Like within the Black psyche. Right. So what you were alluding to earlier, that we don't trust each other.
Right. So I think one thing that will help us get over that is seeing examples of businesses that are doing excellent work. Like for instance, at some point in time, you're like, all Black businesses do X, Y, Z. Then you come across a business that isn't like that. That's gonna blow your mind. That's gonna change the way you think about certain things, right? So the more we have Black businesses that are dedicated to excellence, customer service, excellence, design, web design, graphic design, things of that nature, and are aesthetically pleasing, and are getting themselves out there in terms of marketing, because you have a website and nobody sees it, obviously, right? So doing your thing in terms of marketing, promoting yourself, the more people see you, basically exposure is what's going to change that. What's your business?
So I'm a co-founder of a black investment fund for black male millennials. It's called Bro Capital. And
Did y'all write that down?
oh yeah, it's Bro Capital. So it's BREAUX. Bro, it relates to diaspora a little bit.
That's cool, man.
So over the summer, we were trying to get people on board, and we're doing well now, but we noticed that we were having trouble with the messaging, the marketing. Because finance within the black community is really something that, we're distrusting. We have a flawed relationship with the, historical perspective.
Right.
So that's where my question came from.
Got it.
We need to talk to our kids more, okay, in conversation about business, about being in business, and about, when an elected official walks in the room, everybody gets all excited, but when a business owner walks in the room, it's just another person in the room. And so we need to start talking more to young people about the honor of having a business, okay, about and also about the sacrifices that business owners make. Because then when people want us to donate money to causes, oh, you got a business, you got a lot of money, but they haven't bought not one single thing from us. Okay, so we have to make this more of a conversation, talking of finance, talking business, talking budgeting. My kids, they're older now, but to get allowance, they used to have to submit a budget. And they did get allowance because I'm not the ATM machine. I have a certain amount of money that I get paid, and so you can have a certain amount of it. Well, how are we going to exchange this? Is it for chores or whatever? And then how are you going to spend it? So they learned a principle which I didn't even know they were learning. I learned this after they were grown. They would tell us, some friends, yeah, Mom always made us submit a budget, but we knew we should make an inflated budget because she was always so that's a good strategy, right? They learned how to negotiate. They negotiated with me, so they just always put in more because they knew I would cut down what they said. Like, you say you need $50 to go to the movies. Oh, no. Okay, so then they probably get the amount that it probably does cost $50 to go to the movies. Now it doesn't cost that. But in any case, that is the type of stuff that we have to really start instilling in our community. And then I had a business since I was 10 years old. My sister and I, we come from a good Caribbean family. So you always learn you gotta have something going on the side. And so even if you make coconut bread, you make turnovers. So my grandmother, she used to make coconut bread and turnovers, and she sold them to the ladies at church. My father had a mimeograph machine in the basement, okay, and he used to print the bulletins for the church, but also for the lodge. They needed a lot of little booklets and all of this. So I think that's how I got this whole printing thing in me as well. But I noticed this exchange that my grandmother had every Sunday with these people. She took orders and she came back and they wanted coconut bread, they wanted turnovers, and every Friday, this was what went on in her kitchen. So I told my sister, we should sell pot holders. You know those pot holders they make on the little square looms? They like little jersey loops. You put them on. A lot of people did when they're kids. So I told my sister we should make them, and then my parents did support us. They bought us the loom and the little loops, and so then we sold. And this is way back in the 50s. So we sold our pot holders 15 cents a piece and 2 for 25. And we sat right next to my grandmother. We were 10 years old. She's 9, I was 10. We took orders. They bought us an order book. We wrote the order. People ordered according to their kitchen colors. Oh, they want green and white. They want the checkered pattern. No, they want the block pattern. So we learned entrepreneurship from 10 years old. So I took it up. My sister, she's good at having a job. People need jobs. You need some people that have jobs, and you need some people that are entrepreneurs. So we're not looking down on anybody that have a job. But this entrepreneur stuff could start early. My son had a lemonade stand. He made a sign, 25 cents, 15 cents for old people. So we taught him to say senior citizen, but that's how his bike broke and he needed to get it fixed. So he had to get out there and hustle up some dollars. So we have to teach that to young people, and I think that's going to make some shift in conversation and outlook as to what we could do.
So just in connecting some of those dots, because it's from your question.
No, I get it, bro.
Okay, so because I think one of the things that's important about this is that a lot of times we have to educate our audience that there is a market that can service their needs. When I was in private practice, and I'm looking at one of my mentor attorneys here, when I was in private practice doing consumer defense and defending people who were being sued by debt collectors and losing homes unlawfully and all of these things, my audience, my clientele didn't even know there was a body of law that could help them. So before I could even get them to buy my services, I had to let them know there are all these rights that you have and these things and all these laws that can protect you, but the education in order to get them to know that I was a viable person from whom they could get the type of help that they needed, that really was where I spent most of my marketing time. And so for a lot of us, when we're reaching out to an audience that maybe have some cultural barriers that we have to overcome, sophisticatedly in a way that's going to get them to match up with what we can provide, a lot of it is going to require us to engage in a lot more education, be it starting with our 10-year-old or just really starting with the community that we have as we have it. So hopefully that will help. So we're gonna, I think, close it out there unless any of you have anything burning on your heart that you need to just blurt out.
I just want to make one little announcement. I'm actually moderating another panel on Monday night. It's at the Brooklyn Public Library, and it's the history of Black-owned businesses. Okay, and it's being done by the local development of East New York. I believe it starts at 6 o'clock, and it's at the Grand Army Plaza Library, and there's going to be definitely some interesting panelists there. So I'm glad that this is the first year that, I'm doing one on Friday and one on Monday. This is really good because we need to talk about this Black wealth and how we keep it, how we do it, and so forth. The other part I wanted to say that is burning for me is land and home ownership. If you have something already, do not sell it. And do not refinance it in dubious terms. Right now, there are 8,000 foreclosure cases downtown at the Brooklyn court. That's just Brooklyn. Okay? And they are trying to take the properties of people of color left and right. We have gotten bad loans. We fell under bad pressure during the recession. They don't care that you've recovered. And so we are losing our wealth because we're not having property. If you own property, I know the gentleman before talked about intergenerational wealth. It's fine to leave your property to your kids, but if they don't know anything about how to handle it, it'll be gone from them in a minute. They won't even know what it's worth. That's why I keep stressing, train young people about finance. And if you want to buy a home, it is a sacrifice that you have to make. It's very hard to buy one in New York, so you might have to think about going someplace else to do it, but try your best to buy some property.
We'll be talking about that in depth on March 24th at the Black Land Matters, which is part 3 of our Black Wealth Matters series. So I want to ask you all to give a warm round of applause. So I do invite you to gently bum rush them, get their business cards, get access to them, because there is more advice that they can provide for you. Thank you all. Have a good